Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Hustleandhardwood podcast. I'm DJ, joined alongside Gabe and Jesse. Our very special guest for this one, Orlando Magic radio play-by-play announcer, Jake Chapman. How are you doing today?
DJ, Gabe, Jesse, I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Good. We're doing good, right?
Well, all right. Well, let's get into this. You started as a intern with the Magic, right, in 2006. How did that experience help lead you to where you are today?
Man, that was like everything. It obviously created the relationships that are still in place today. I was hired by Dante Marcatelli back then. He is still the director of broadcasting and television host, and he does a whole lot of play-by-play as well on the television side. So, and then a lot of the people who were there in 06 are still there. And so Joel Glass, who's our chief communications officer, and George Galanti, who is our vice president of communications, and basically everybody in my orbit have been there for that long. And so I think that speaks to the organization. But getting that gig, it was an internship back then. We call it a graduate associate role now. I still hire a recent graduate every season. We have a radio intern still. It's now called the audio network internship position or graduate associate position. But stuff like that. And you know, there's a lot of conversations about how much pay is fair for those type of roles and the experience that you need to get. But you know, sometimes I think there's some restrictions in place there that can make it really difficult to take a role like that. It's changed over the years. The pay is better. We try to make it so that, you know, you can take it and do it as a full-time job out of college. But the experience that I got at that point is completely irreplaceable. And certainly the connections I made were huge too. And so that was sort of the start of my journey, but I'm not sure I would have a journey without getting that internship in 06.
All right, thank you. Gabe, you want to go next?
Thank you.
Yeah, I can take a question. I would like to ask, how much of your previous time with the Orlando Magic played in your decision to come back in 2022?
It was actually 2019 when I came back. 2022 was when I was named the play-by-play voice. I came back as pre and post host and producer, a bit of the same role that I was doing before, but with more on-air exposure. And then as we came out of the pandemic, unfortunately, we kind of scrapped down our radio broadcast and built it back up. And so in 22 was when I started doing play-by-play. It was, Gabe, it was everything. Like the connections and the relationships that you make as you guys end up going through your careers and whatever it is that you do will always play a big role, if not because you end up coming back to a place like I did, because it's a small world and it's getting smaller every day with as connected as everybody is. And so not only, you know, did my connections with the Magic bring me back in 2019, I wouldn't have left probably without those connections in the first place, because I left for Detroit and I went and worked for the Pistons, and the job that I had done in Orlando was the only reason I was even considered for that gig. And so the NBA and pro sports it's a very sort of, you know, close-knit group. There's only so many of these jobs, and everybody sort of knows each other. And so certainly I would have thought twice about coming back if I wasn't coming back to work with Dante and for Joel and George, and if the structure wasn't sort of in place the way it was when I had left 5 years prior. The people meant a lot, but to be sure, the organization meant a lot as well. And knowing where I was going made a huge deal, especially because I was a little bit further on in my career. I knew a little bit more what I wanted at that point, and certainly I wasn't. When I was in my 20s, I would have gone anywhere for the right opportunity. And as you get a little bit older, you say, okay, at least I know Orlando. Okay, at least I'm only a 2-hour flight from my family in Ohio, et cetera, et cetera. All of that stuff starts to play a role as well. So I don't think I would have come back in 2019 if I hadn't had that experience in the first place.
All right, Jesse.
All right, a quick question from me. Yeah, quick question for me. So you went to journalism school in Ohio State. What in Ohio State really, like, what was like the thing that really taught you journalism in Ohio State? Like, what like assignment or what like skill did you learn in Ohio State that really guided you through your career?
It's a really good question because as I age, it changes, right? Like, so when I was in school, 02 to 06, you guys weren't alive yet, but media was such a different world then. We didn't really have podcasts then. It was a very, very, new medium. I studied newspaper writing and I wanted to get into radio back then. And so that is sort of a sense of how much things have changed. Everything's gone digital, obviously, but you guys have such a great opportunity here to do exactly what you're doing, to create something on your own, to get your reps up, to get better at it, and to build something so that when you do go out, you're going to have something to point to. When I was in school, a few of the biggest things that stuck out to me, because like I said, like, I didn't even study broadcasting. I studied journalism, like you said, Jesse. And so I was writing for a newspaper. You guys, the one thing that your generation does not do well enough, or the two things I should say, read and write. Read and write. Printed word is so powerful, and it'll help you so much doing what you're doing now if you get a mastery of the language, and if you learn to get your thoughts down on a sheet of paper, and then if you're going to get thoughts off a sheet of paper into your head. It's just something that with as much media as we have, and and it's cool. The tech is really cool, but that stuff is being forgotten. So I learned how to write at Ohio State, and it helped me immensely as a producer, as a pre and post game host, as a play-by-play. Eventually, it helped me as a broadcaster and as a public speaker, period. And so when I look back, I think about writing about something that was kind of boring for the school newspaper, and how I figured out a way to kind of make it compelling, but how I figured out a way to put together a story. Storytelling is ultimately what we're all doing, and if you can learn how to do it on a sheet of paper, it becomes a lot easier to do it in person.
Thank you.
All right, I have a question. So you've been broadcasting since 2008, right?
Yeah, well, 06 was when I graduated from
06.
school.
Okay. So out of all of those years up until now, what has been your favorite game to be a part of?
Ooh, that's a good one. So, when I was producer, I was sort of stuck in studio, but it was a fun job. I was in my early 20s, and that was what I wanted to do at first. I loved the behind the scenes aspect of it. So the first time that I ever felt like I was doing something special was actually my first year as full-time producer, which was 2009-10. And that was when we made it to the conference finals. We lost to the Celtics that year. It was the year the Celtics won the championship. And as I was producing Eastern Conference Finals games at 25 years old, I was like, man, this is it. I don't know if I can beat this. Then fast forward, 15 years. First time I ever did an NBA game play-by-play was actually when I worked for the Pistons. I was the pre and post host, but Mark Champion, the play-by-play guy, needed some time off. And so I was just sort of thrust into that role. And I was awful. I was just not, if I listen back to it, I would not be comfortable with it, I'm sure. But that was a pretty special moment. Fast forward, I just finished my fourth season doing play-by-play. I got a chance 2 years ago to do the opening round Game 7 in Cleveland, which is where I grew up, the arena I fell in love with basketball in, and I'm there with the opposite team, obviously, but experiencing that crowd, knowing that if I didn't do this, that I would be with them on the other side and engaged in that way was pretty special. And then this year we had such a blast. I don't know how tight you guys are with our team, but we went to the in-season tournament quarterfinals in Vegas this year, but the semifinals. But the game that we played to get there, the final play-in group play game against the Miami Heat, was a home game, middle of December. We hate the Heat. We're not fans of the Miami Heat. We got that in-state rivalry going. And I got to do that game with Dante. There was no local television. Dante's like my mentor. We do a daily radio show and podcast together. I've been working with him for, like I said, 20 years. On and off, and we did that game together. We smoked the Heat. We knew we were going to Vegas, and that was just the most fun I've ever had. It was me and my buddy doing a big game together, live in an electric arena. And so that's the one that's in my head. Like, if I can just bottle that and do that for the rest of my life, then I'll be pretty happy.
All right, Gabe.
I would like to ask, with seeing how you've worked in 3 different cities, Orlando, Cleveland, and Detroit, which one do you think really contributed to you, not just based off like the teams you would cover, but in terms of the environment?
That's a good one. Growing up in Cleveland or outside of Cleveland is part of the reason that I felt comfortable moving to Detroit. I think if you grew up in LA, Detroit probably doesn't sound as appealing to you. Cleveland and Detroit are very similar. The Midwestern city is 3 hours apart, and they're both like insanely passionate sports towns. And so so growing up in Cleveland is what made me insanely passionate about sports. And then it fit in perfectly when I went to Detroit. I loved Detroit and I felt like I was pretty successful there. I could have stayed for a long time if other stuff hadn't happened. So I would say Cleveland made me. Detroit, I got some really good experience there, but I spent 8 years in my 20s learning sports broadcasting in Orlando, and then I came back, and the city of Orlando is one thing. The Orlando Magic is my work family, and so I would say Orlando is probably the most important thing as far as my professional development goes. But I'm a kid from Cleveland at heart, and that's the reason I have the passion to do all of this. Is growing up listening to Joe Tate do Cavs games, Jim Donovan do Browns games, and the great Tom Hamilton do Guardians games. I mean, if you grow up in Cleveland, it's hard not to fall in love with sports and sports broadcasting.
Thank you.
Jesse?
All right, I have a question. So obviously the easy question to ask you right now is, what was your favorite Magic player to watch? But I want to know, what was your favorite player on another team besides the Magic or the Pistons when you were with the Pistons to watch, that when you looked at your schedule, you're like, oh my God, I get to see this guy play today?
Whew, that's a great one. And you know what? Honestly, the Magic question is a tough one too, because when you work with the guys, you end up, it's not like I know them or give them a call, but like you at least get a sense of like their personalities and who they are. And yeah, I work for the team, but coming from a media perspective, some of them are a lot more fun to work with in that regard. And we've had some great ones over the years. Just as far as on the floor, the show, it's hard to beat Steph, man. I mean, for years now, you just walk into the building, and part of it is because of guys like you guys, right? Like and it's in Orlando, it's in Detroit, and it's been a decade now, in Cleveland as well. There's so many kids show up wearing Steph's jerseys, and we all love Steph because he's just about the right stuff, right? Like if you find a broadcaster who's got a vendetta with Steph Curry, there's something else going on. I feel like, you know what I mean? Like he's about the right things. There's just always, I understand some people don't like the threes. Some people grew up in the 90s and want it to be a little bit more physical like it was then, but such a good dude. I watched him do, what did he get? I think he got 55. He got 50 2 years ago. I mean, this was pretty recently. Just lit us up, and it's not like we were winning 19 games that year. This is with Paolo and Franz, and we had expectations. We thought we had a chance to win that game. He had other ideas, and I get engaged, man. I am Magic fan number one when I'm calling these games. And you just step back and say, man, I just saw greatness. And that has happened a handful of times. When Harden does it, and he's done it, and when other guys do it, it's like, wow. I watched Anthony Davis do 59 and 20 one day in Detroit. One of the best performances I've ever seen. Those are all fun. When Steph does it, it's like you're happy for him too. You know what I mean? Because we're all Steph fans. And then I watched him do local TV, local radio, go into the press room and do that, and do the entire media circuit after the game. Literally waited until he got done with TV to go do Tim Roy and the Warriors radio broadcast. So and then he just put his book out this year, and he made sure every one of us broadcasters, Sam Farber, everybody you guys are talking to, got an autographed version of his book. And he didn't hand deliver it to me, but he, as they were going through the circuit this year, Raymond Ritter, who's their PR guy, who's the best in the business, came in and these are not small books either. It's a big coffee table book. He's lugging up the stairs to the radio deck. So Steph Curry is pure class, and no matter what, as his career has developed, it's just you just feel a buzz when he's in the building. It's the middle of January. It's a random night in Orlando, but the Warriors are in town. That gets the juices flowing.
Thank you.
Gabe?
So, with your time currently with the Orlando Magic, being the voice for the Magic, the roster has been fairly young. The average age of the team since your time as the voice has been under 25 years old. What's it like working alongside this very young roster?
It's interesting. I mentioned I hire an intern every year, a graduate associate, and as I've aged, I realize that I'm unk now or whatever. Like I'm losing sight of all of the trends online. I can't, I stop at Twitter, and then my interns are showing me all the TikToks, and I'm like, I can't keep up with this stuff. So it's funny. I feel like it honestly, it does kind of keep me young a little bit. I've got young kids running around the house, and so I need something to energize me and there's a big difference between talking to a 35-year-old and a 25-year-old. So, and as we age, the athletes get younger. Like, that's not changing. It's not going to all of a sudden be a bunch of 30-year-olds in the NBA, or at least, in the first couple of years. We're drafting 19-year-olds, and some of these kids are ready by 22. See Victor Wembanyama, to nearly dominate the league, and so I think it's something pretty special. The level of play we have and how talented some of these young players are and how ready they are. I mean, it used to be, Jordan waited 6 years. It used to be you had to take your lumps year after year after year, and now some of these guys, they're so skilled, especially some of the European players. By the time they get here and get to the league, they're ready at that point to take over. And so hopefully it's our guys this year. I think last year was a little bit of a wake-up call. Hopefully we can stay healthy. And we got a couple of those 24, 25-year-olds who I think are ready to take the next step.
All right, Jesse, do you have any questions?
Yeah, so the Magic are a team that had a magical playoff run this past year. And, it surprised a lot of people. They almost beat the Pistons. They made it to the playoffs. So, but what do you think is the next step for the team? Do you think you go into a rebuild, or do you think you use what you had this year and move it on to next year and possibly use free agency to make your team better?
Yeah, I don't think we're at a rebuild yet. I mean, we still got the young talent in place that haven't really had a great opportunity because of injuries. I think you have to take some personal responsibility. You had an opportunity to beat Detroit this year. You had an opportunity to beat Cleveland 2 years ago in Games 7, and you didn't get them done. So, I think before you start tearing apart the core, you got to figure out what it looks like if everybody's healthy and rolling in the same direction. Obviously, a new coach coming in, we'll see what that looks like. We're going to meet him tomorrow. I'm really excited about that. I think, Sean Sweeney's track record at the very least lets you know that the defense is going to be fine. There shouldn't be a big drop off there. His track record with superstars, Luka, obviously Wemby, for a year, and then the big one is the work that he did with Giannis. You hope he's got that magic touch, and with Paolo and Franz and even some of the other guys able to take that next step. I look at a guy like Anthony Black and I say, boy, there's a lot of meat on that bone. He is a good young player who just kind of started clicking it together last year. What does that look like with another year under his belt and with some more development? So we're still so young, Jesse. Like I think you got to give it some time to breathe. I understand though, like expectations are expectations, and it's been 3 straight years. Jeff Weltman said pretty clearly, like, I'm not going to tear apart the core, but we're going to answer phone calls and see what's up. And if there's a chance to upgrade this team, you saw last year, they weren't afraid to come off those picks to get Desmond Bane in. He made a huge difference. You don't make a trade like that and then back away from it. Like, he puts chips in last year. Desmond Bane is here to win right now. Paolo and Franz are ready to win right now. So I think I think you hope that making that coaching change makes some pretty quick fixes. and you're able to make a run this year and next.
All right. So you've
Thank you.
been the radio play-by-play voice since 2022, the same year Paula got drafted. What has it been like seeing a rising star like this develop, kind of as your career as a play-by-play announcer has developed?
Yeah, it's a good call, DJ. His first game, he dunked over Corey Joseph, and that was my first regular season game doing
Yep.
play-by-play, and I got so excited that I jumped up and my headphones got ripped off like this, and so the call is like fractured. It's like, well, it's all garbled and stuff, but that's how fired up I was, and so I think he served notice right away that he was ready for the moment, and I served notice right away that I needed some more seasoning. He's so fun to watch. The guy's a machine. Like, he is just so locked in and focused on winning, and he's intense, and you see it sort of in the down times as well. You see it on the elevator at the hotel. Like, the guy wants nothing but to win. He is such a competitor. Franz Wagner is the exact same way.
Mm-hmm.
They both have, slightly different personalities, but just watching those two develop and watching them on the floor and seeing, the one thing that I think as a play-by-play guy, or just as somebody who watches every second of every game all season long, is you see the incremental growth. And sometimes I think people drop in, they might see a bad game. Maybe they see a really good game, and then all of a sudden their impression of what's happening is either inflated or deflated, especially when people watching the playoffs. I mean, if you watch Powell in the playoffs, you think he's one of the 5 greatest players of all time. He's not quite there yet, but the guy is obviously somebody whose game rises in the postseason. He's become a much better passer. He's become a much better defender. He's becoming a much better leader. All of those things. You saw the size and frame. You saw the skill at Duke. And at O'Day in Seattle, that the rest of the stuff, the intangibles, the creating for his teammates, the leadership, the defense. This year he started post All-Star break. He was like, I'm checking whoever they got every night. I'll check Kawhi. I'll check LeBron. Night in, night out, I'm gonna take the best wing. And that's something we haven't seen in years past. And so those sort of like small builds are what is really fun to watch. I know he was disappointed last year that it wasn't an All-Star. I'm not sure there are going to be too many years in the next 5 or 6 where he doesn't make the All-Star team. I would be surprised, injuries notwithstanding. That's a guy who I think is ready to really explode, and we've already certainly seen some of the flashes. So it's been pretty fun watching him develop.
All right, Gabe.
With the past season, this is just a fun little question. What was your overall opinion on the rebrand with the logo and the jerseys?
Oh man, I loved it. I thought there was that stuff takes so long to get done. That's one thing that I learned just like 2 or 3 years ago. It was like, we're about due, right? I remember talking to one of our marketing people, and they're like, oh yeah, we've been working on that for years. What are you talking about? Like, it takes so long to put that stuff into play, and there's a lot of other stuff and red tape that weighs in. I thought they did a great job of honoring the past, not just trotting out the same thing. Like, we all love the jerseys from the 90s, or at least people my age do, because we grew. I mean, I was a Magic fan in Cleveland, Ohio in 1994 because of Shaq and Penny and because of how cool the jerseys looked. So I knew you had to obviously like capture that a little bit, but you don't just want to be like, okay, the throwbacks are our new jerseys and that's it. And there's a lot of licensing stuff involved in all of that. That doesn't make it quite that easy. So I thought they did a fantastic job of capturing what people still wanted from the past, introducing something new, not making it feel like they just smashed it together. And then those blue and blacks, those are pretty special. I think we wore them the entire postseason. And so that tells you something. If the players are asking, hey, can we wear those blue and blacks home and away no matter what, then that usually suggests that they got that one right. And so I think they nailed those statements.
All right, Jesse.
Yeah, so you like on like a team that has been morphed over the years, There's been some trades. Cole Anthony left. How do you feel that the Magic have done creating a roster that has propelled them to a playoff run? Or do you think that they could have actually been able to do more this year if they made different moves?
Well, I think there's always the moves that aren't made that we'll never know about, obviously. But then you always got to think about what you may be giving up in those scenarios. And so obviously you don't have a ton of draft capital anymore. You spent all of that on Desmond Bane. And I don't think anybody has a regret about that. I mean, regardless of where those picks fall and end up falling, right now I think they've been the 16th pick 2 years in a row or whatever. But Desmond Bane was what this roster needed. And if you watched us throughout the season, I mean, he was so good and made such an impact. Now, does the fact that we didn't get to the second round last year, lessen the impact? I don't know. That's for other people to debate. But as somebody who saw us 2 years ago without Desmond Bane and a year ago with Desmond Bane, I can tell you we're a lot closer to a championship than we were without him. I think when you look at some of the moves we made in the last couple of years, even guys we've brought in, but then mainly guys that we've let go or that have moved on in some capacity. Boy, there's not a lot of guys that you look around and say, "Man, I wish we still had him." And that's not to fry anybody who's no longer here, but the bottom line is, when you move on from somebody and then they get an opportunity or two in other places and it doesn't work out for them there, you probably made the right decision. And so there isn't much remorse, I don't think, about some of the guys that you let get away. You've got a core in place right now that, and yeah, there may be some changes, but I think the bottom line is you got 6 or 7 guys that when healthy is close to a championship core. Yeah, there are some tweaks to be made, and yes, I think when you get past the first round and start to get up into the iron of the league, then you may have to make some changes. Like, it's really difficult to get to the point of where the San Antonios and the Oklahomas are right now. I think the Spurs kind of sort of shot up there, and kudos to them. But typically it takes a few years. Typically you got to be the Knicks and you got to take your lumps 2 years in a row, whatever, and have a group in place. And so I think that's kind of what you're hoping for. I think personally, there's no reason that we can't be right now the New York Knicks in 2 years. I mean, we've got a core in place, guys who should be able to learn and develop together. Good two-way players as well. No, they didn't play together in college, but I think we might have overblown that story a little bit. It was a long time ago. Those guys were at Villanova. What I do think matters is that Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart like each other, and that there's good chemistry, and that you've got that group within the locker room that was comfortable, was together for long enough that they were able to learn each other's sort of idiosyncrasies, and that's the really important part, I think. So for our group right now, I think you've got the core in place. It's just a matter of letting them learn, letting them develop, and hopefully, making some tweaks to get you through into the next sort of realm.
Yeah, thank you.
The final question for the question part: when someone listens to a Jake Chapman play-by-play announcing, what do you want them to take away from it?
That I'm prepared, that I'm engaged, and that I'm energetic. I think, we all do our own broadcast, and we all have our own sort of signature sound. And so when I first started, I felt like I just sounded like all the people that I grew up listening to. And yet there's no way to develop your own voice without just developing your own voice. Like, it's not going to happen immediately. You just have to practice, and eventually and you can't plan it. You can't, fabricate it. Yeah. It just has to come out organically. I think when people listen to me, and this is the feedback usually that I get, I'm emotional, like I'm in it. And so sometimes that can wear on people a little bit, but usually I think people appreciate that it means something to me. And so it's a long season. And when the Kings are in town in mid-January, you got to find something to get juiced up about. And for me, I am excited about NBA basketball 24 hours a day. I mean, I just love it. And so there's it might be a slog to get to the arena that night, but as soon as the ball goes up, man, I am locked in. I'm having fun. There's no place else I'd rather be. And so I hope that sort of reads when you're listening to the broadcast, that I'm enjoying myself and that I really, really want the Magic to win this game.
All right, into the next part of this. We have some Magic trivia for you. Are you able to do some Magic trivia?
All right. Time. We got a beach trip, so let's go quick.
Okay. What year did the Magic enter the NBA?
89.
That's correct.
Damn.
Which former Magic player won the 2000 dunk contest?
The 2000 dunk contest?
Yeah, let me fact check this real quick.
2000. Oh my gosh. 2000.
They weren't
Steve
on the
Francis?
No, they weren't on the Magic when they did this, but they played for the Magic at one point.
Oh, Vince.
Yep. All right, and then the last question.
Was it Vince?
It was.
Yeah,
Vince
okay.
Carter. Who was the Magic head coach during the 2009 finals run?
Stan the man.
It was.
Wow.
By the way, my favorite. Come on, those guys, those are easy. I thought you were gonna hit me with cards. Except the Vince one was a good question because I don't ever remember the dunk contest years. If you showed me footage of that dunk, I'd be like, oh yeah, duh. That was a pretty good one.
Who would
Stan
remember?
Van Gundy, by the way, this is absolute greatest. Love that man.
All right. Well, I know you got to get going, but from Gabe and Jesse, I'm DJ.
Thank you though.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey guys, I appreciate you. Appreciate the time. Keep doing what you're doing. And
Go Magic.
Thank you.
Magic.
Thank you.
All right, boys.